So feedback is the breakfast of champions. Once you begin to take action, you'll start getting feedback about whether you're doing it right or not. You'll get data, advice, help, suggestions and reaction, even criticism that will help you constantly adjust and move forward while continually enhancing your knowledge, abilities, attitudes and relationships. But asking for feedback is really the only first part of the equation, remember. Once you receive the feedback, you have to be willing to respond to it. It's not easy to take it as well, especially if it's criticism. There are two kinds of feedback: negative and positive. We tend to prefer the positive, clearly. And this is results, money, praise, a raise, a promotion, satisfied customers, awards, happiness, inner peace, intimacy, and pleasure. It feels better. It tells us we're on course and we're doing the right thing. We tend not to like the negative feedback. Lack of results, little or no money, criticism, poor evaluations, being passed over for a raise or a promotion, complaints and happiness, inner conflict, loneliness, and ultimate pain. However, there is a much useful data in negative feedback as there is in positive. It tells us that we're off course, heading the wrong direction, and doing the wrong thing. It is also extremely valuable information. In fact, it's so valuable that one of the most useful projects you can undertake is to change how you feel about negative feedback. Okay, so Jack Canfield refers to negative feedback as information about improvement opportunities. The world is telling him where and how he can improve and what he's doing. Here is a place I can get better at now. Here is where I can correct my behavior to get even closer to what I want. More money, more sales, promotion, better relationships, better grades, a more successful athlete on the field. To reach your goals more quickly, you need to welcome, receive, and embrace all the feedback that comes your way. So here's a wee lesson about on course, off course, on course, off course. There are many ways to respond to feedback, some of which work. So let's take a closer look at the objectives of this, and some that they don't, and they keep you stuck even further from your goals. So when Jack Canfield conducts trainings on the success principles, he illustrates the point by asking a volunteer from the audience to stand at the far side of the room. The volunteer represents the goal he wants to reach. His task is to walk across the room to where he's standing. And if he gets to where he's and see if he can get to where he's standing and he's successfully reached his goal. So he instructs every volunteer to act as if a constant feedback generating machine. Every time he takes a step, he tells them to say on course or off course as he walks directly towards them. And even the slightest bit off, he tells them to say it's off course. Then he begins to walk very slowly towards that volunteer. Every time he takes a step towards him directly, and the volunteer says on course. Every few steps, he purposely veers off and they say off course. And he corrects it. And after a lot of zigging and zagging, he eventually reaches goal and gives the person a hug for volunteering. So he asked the audience, well, okay, so tell me which feedback the volunteer gave more often. Most of the audience will actually say the off course. Now, if the answer is off course, he got more often, it's an interesting part at the fact that he got to his goal anyway, even though he was off course on the majority of occasions. The same is true in life. All we have to do is start to take action and then respond to the feedback that we get as a result of it. If we do that diligently enough and long enough, we'll eventually get to our goals and achieve our dreams that we actually want. So there's certain ways of responding to your feedback that don't work. So there are many ways to respond to feedback, some that simply don't work. Caving in and quitting. And of course, caving in and quitting's never going to get you anywhere. So how many times have you or someone known received negative feedback and simply said, it's over, and caved in? All that does is it keeps you stuck in the exact same place you were before. You've got to remember as well, if you don't cave in, you're no better, no worse off than when you were. So just don't cave in. Just keep going. Of course, it's easier not to cave in. If it's easier not to cave in, and when you see negative feedback, remember, simply, it's just information to get you on the right track. Think about it as a correctional guidance system of criticism. Think about the automatic pilot system in an airplane. The system constantly tells the pilot when he goes off course, and eventually they always get to their destination. The other one is getting mad at the source of the feedback. Once again, how many times have you begun to get feedback from someone and you don't like where it's going and you just get mad at it and you completely go ballistic? Well, you've not got to do that. And you call them names and you just discount what they say. I mean, that's definitely not the thing you should be doing. Good morning, Karen. Think about it. How many times have you reacted with anger and hostility towards someone that was actually giving you the feedback and it was genuinely useful? I often say to people when I say that, hey, I'm only the messenger. Don't shoot me, just delivering. You could listen to it or you could not listen to it. It's entirely up to yourself. But success leaves clues. If it's worked for me, more than likely worked for you. And all this does is push the person and the feedback away as a result of what you're doing. So try not to get mad at the source. Try to think about it. I'm only human. I do sometimes. But then when I go away and think about it, I come back and say, yep, I see it now. I understand it. The next one is ignoring feedback. For the third demonstration in this scenario, Jack actually puts his fingers in his ears and determinedly walks off course. And the volunteer keeps saying, off course, but he can't hear anything he says. So not listening or ignoring the person giving the feedback doesn't actually work. We all know people who tune out to every point of view but their own. They're simply not interested in what other people think. They don't want to hear anything that anyone else has to say. The sad thing is, feedback could significantly transform their lives if only they would listen and respond. So as you can see, when someone gives you feedback, there are three possibilities to react. It don't work. Cry, falling apart, caving in, giving up, getting angry at the source of the feedback, or ignoring the feedback completely. Crying and falling apart simply is ineffective. It may temporarily release whatever emotions you've built up in your system, but it takes you out of the game completely. It immobilizes you. It may stop the flow of negative feedback, but it doesn't get you the information you need to reach your goal. You can't win the game in life if you're not playing on the field. Getting angry at the person giving the feedback is equally indifferent and ineffective. It just makes the source of the valuable feedback attack you back and simply go away. What good's that? It may temporarily make you feel better, but it doesn't help you become more successful in your journey. In these advanced trainings in the Train on the Train program, when Jack actually knows the other participants fairly well, he has a whole group stand up, mill around, and ask people as possible the following question. How do you see yourself? How do you see me limiting myself? So go to someone you know and understands you and ask them, how do you see me limiting myself? After doing that for 30 minutes, sit down, take stock, listen to what they've got to say, and see if you can help yourself and adjust and get yourself back on course. And I'll see you tomorrow, and we'll talk about be willing to ask for that feedback.